A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
It's Shaun Morash.
On the sideline, into the end zone. Touchdown, Giants!
From the offseason to the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
Welcome into one Giant step. One, let's say it, shitty game. 30-7, the final score. Bucs Giants. We're already going vulgar here. What is it? At Shaun Morash on Twitter. For me, at Bryce Gelman on Twitter for him. Brycey boy, the Giants get obliterated by Tampa Bay off the bye week with Tommy DeVito going. Plenty to air out on the grievance start. But let me just begin with this. A loss? Sure. I picked the Bucs to cover the game. I truthfully, and shame on me, didn't think that this team off the quarterback change was going to have as gutless, as lifeless, and as many have said in the locker room postgame, soft an effort as the New York Giants had on Sunday afternoon at MetLife Stadium. And everybody, top to bottom, GM, coach, players, should be embarrassed with the performance they put forth. And the idea that Baker Mayfield is doing the Italian hand gesture signs in the end zone. I mean, the Giants are the laughing stock of the NFL, and there's plenty of laughing stocks. And today, nothing short of unacceptable football. And look, we can get into the offense only scoring 7 points, but Bryce, my first solely focused thing is on the freaking defense and how you come off a bye week, knowing your problems with the run game, and still can't tackle worth a shit. Flat out. Okay? You're getting cursing, Shaun, today. I've had it. Where do you stand, Bryce?
It's just demoralizing. I mean, it feels like this season has been demoralizing defeats after demoralizing defeats, but I don't think you can get any worse than what we saw today, considering the defensive performance, the intensity. It was just not there. And I said in the preview pod, Shaun, that I wasn't going to comment anything on the Giants defense because we didn't know, and at the time, obviously, we didn't know the type of intensity the defense would come out with. And what we saw today, Shaun, I really just, I don't even know what to say. Like they were as dejected as I've ever seen NFL players in an NFL game like this. This wasn't the preseason. This wasn't week 18 game where half the starters are out. This is a middle of the season game after a quarterback change, after half the team was criticizing the GM, the coach, and then you come out and you play like that. So deflating.
It's
just
deflating.
Unbelievably deflating.
So, defensively, they start this game and have basically, an 8.5-minute drive go down their throats almost the entire first quarter, short third down, just getting picked up like crazy. And you just knew the route was going to be on from that point forward. The Giants had a chance, obviously, to answer offensively, but Tommy DeVito swallows a sack early in that game that basically kills him. He wasn't sitting there turning the ball over. That was a positive. But in the end, I mean, the Giants don't get Malik Neighbors even involved until the second half of this game. And Malik Neighbors wasn't happy once again in his post-game meeting with the media. Boo freaking who, Malik Neighbors. You're a top pick on a bad team. Deal with it. You understand the quarterback problems. But really, just collectively, for this team to have that kind of effort defensively, here's the deal, man. You could be a bad team. Bad teams happen in the NFL. Seasons get out of control. And for a variety of reasons. And I still think the idea that this team's playing without a quarterback is the biggest reason. Tommy DeVito, I think, clearly showed today, fine as a backup. But when he gets swallowed with those sacks, he's not going to be the answer long-term, as much as that would be a fun dream. That's not the case. The Washington Commanders played a dead-as-nails Dallas Cowboys team on Sunday. And the Cowboys put up all the fight in the world on the road, end up winning a thrilling game. The Tennessee Titans are dead as a doornail with 2 wins like the Giants, and they're going back and forth with a division rival like the Houston Texans, playing hard. I'm at the time we're taping this is a pretty immediate reaction. I got the Raiders leading a division rival Bronco team. They're 2-8. I'm saying all this to say, just because your season is lost coming off of a bye week, hell, the Carolina Panthers knew they stunk, had 3 wins, beat the Giants. They came off a bye week and almost beat the freaking Chiefs on Sunday. Doesn't mean you have to lay down like dogs the moment you take your first gut punch in a game. And it felt like the moment they couldn't make a tackle on that first drive, this team laid down their swords. And look, when you lay down your swords, what is the magic word we call that? Quitting. And after the game, Jermaine Illuminor, who had to leave this game due to an injury, that's another story. indicated as much that he thought there were some guys that just didn't give it 100%. That is tanking from a player standpoint. That is players playing not to get hurt. And that is the kind of crap, while it might be good in the long term for the Giants to get the first overall pick, why it is so hard to thread a needle that way. Yeah, if this team's having players quit, that's when you open up Pandora's box and have the conversation about the head coach and whether he'll stay or go. And this has been a pro Daboll podcast, and I still think there's a good head coach in Brian Daboll, but it is very awfully hard to survive if this is the kind of effort you're going to get post-bye for these New York Giants as they approach the end of the year. And if that's what it looked like on this week, what is it going to look like in the weeks that mount when you play teams like the Baltimore Ravens still this year, if the Philadelphia Eagles need that last week of the year? Hell, the Colts are a spunky team. Like, what will this look like? The Bucs were a team that was 4-6, hadn't played some great football of late, and they turned the Giants into a laughing stock. I mean, this is just, it's unacceptable garbage, Bryce. And any dream, forget long-term quarterback solutions, that Tommy DeVito was going to inject some enthusiasm into this team, that was out the window. There was none of that. There was none of that spunk that we saw a year ago. I'm not blaming DeVito for that. I'm just saying this team, off of the week they had and benching the quarterback, acted like their dog died instead of playing with a little fire that maybe, hey, they benched the quarterback, got rid of the quarterback, my job's on the line. None of them look like they want a job.
I think it's a major indictment on the defensive captain, Dexter Lawrence. How many times have we sung the praises throughout this season for Dexter Lawrence? How many times have I been on this podcast saying he's the greatest defensive player in all of football? Well, Shaun, I take that back after today. I understand the idea of not wanting to play your hardest because, there's nothing to play for. The season is lost. They just benched, and then they released your starting quarterback, a guy that you did like, the guy that you did buy in for, and then you go out and you do that. You go out and you put up an absolute zero in terms of effort, intensity, all of it. It's pathetic. And I don't want to go out here and say I hate Dexter Lawrence. He's not one of my favorite players anymore. I get the idea of, if the franchise doesn't seem like it wants to win, then why should I go out there and try to win? I understand that. But to not go out there and put any effort in past that first drive, how can you go out there and say that Dexter Lawrence and the rest of those guys in that defense, we can get to a guy like Deonte Banks. I don't want to do it today. I don't want to talk about him. But Dexter Lawrence, man, I'm a little disappointed in you. For as good of a football player as you are, and it hasn't just been this week, Shaun. Dexter Lawrence is the most dominant defensive player in football. I think you could say that. And what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 weeks is Dexter Lawrence nailing it in. And this week is the culmination of all that.
I'm going to say this because I actually tweeted this. I don't know if you saw my Twitter. So full disclosure, at the time you were listening to this, I have already been on the air on WFAN following the Giants game. Okay. So I'm just taking you through a time machine. Bryce and I are taping this pretty immediately after this Giants loss and kind of hearing some of the post-game sound prior to me going on the air on WFAN. I tweeted a little while ago that I'm going to rip Dexter Lawrence on WFAN. So I'm going to take the time to rip it as well. My ripping is actually a different thing. I think there might be a product of Dexter Lawrence getting a little worn down because this team has zero depth at defensive tackle, and he's basically got to be out there all world, taking on double teams, triple teams. So nonetheless, I'll grant him that. Here's my issue with Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence, whether he likes it or not, signed a monster extension with this New York Giants football team, and well-deserved and well-earned every damn penny because he is that good a football player. However, whether he likes it or not, when you put ink to paper and you sign a big money deal and you are the best player on the team, there is certain unwritten rules of leadership that come along with that. Okay. And Dexter Lawrence, whether he likes it or not, has to be a leader for a team. And being a leader on a crappy football team sucks, but part of the deal. Guess what? You're getting paid a lot of money. Step up and do it. This week, at what was a charitable event, off the heels of Daniel Jones being benched, Dexter Lawrence basically had first word as a player to the media and to the fans about how he felt about this benching. And while in full quotes, he said nice things about Tommy DeVito, words still left his mouth that he thought Daniel Jones was the best quarterback on the New York Giants. And here's the deal. Dexter Lawrence came in first round, same draft class as Daniel Jones. I understand that those two have played their entire career together. Dexter Lawrence's only taste of a playoff success and win came as a result of Daniel Jones playing well at quarterback. So I understand that there is a bond there that some of us will never understand. But when the fan base and the media all can see that Daniel Jones, for probably a million reasons, is not the true top quarterback that this Giant team needs, has, and should have been paid to be.
Yeah.
Injuries, mental stuff after getting beat up by the offense, whatever it is, we still got to the end road. The idea that this coach decides he's going to go to a guy that gave the team energy, still one of your teammates, and you stand up there and you prioritize defending your friend Daniel Jones by making sure to use the words, he's the number one quarterback on the Giants, or the Giants' best quarterback, whatever the stupid phrase was he used, undercut everything that this coaching staff was trying to do and sell. And you have a locker room of 53 guys, more whatever, the practice squad, that all look, when you spin the dial, who are we going to look up to? Oh, Dexter Lawrence is our best player. When you hear Dexter Lawrence say that publicly, what is being said behind the scenes? I thought Dexter Lawrence, as a team leader, whether it was accidental or not, undercut everything that this coaching staff did today. And now you're hearing Malik Neighbors say, oh, it's not the quarterback post game. You know, guys are taking their cue from, why wouldn't they? Their best player, their best peer.
Exactly.
He set a garbage example as a leader. Again, maybe unintentional, as he was just trying to say and do the right thing for his buddy, Daniel Jones. But, dude, Kayvon Thibodeau was the one this week that had the best thing to say. Hey, we're 2-8. Every job should be on the table. That's the kind of crap Dexter Lawrence should be saying. Instead, he prioritized backing his friend. And guess what? It set the whole freaking tone. At the moment this team got down, there wasn't a soul in that locker room that thought Tommy DeVito could take them back. And the moment Jermaine Illuminor got hurt, everybody made business decisions, and that's garbage. And that's taking tone and leadership, or the example from your leader who said it earlier in the week. I thought Dexter Lawrence did a crappy job this week. I'm sorry. And I think it set everything backwards for this Giant team.
Shaun, it's just immature, and it's not what you would expect of your best player.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. You just mentioned it, you know, the idea of him going out there and defending Daniel Jones. Okay. You're the defensive captain. You're the best player on the New York Giants. That's your title. That's your job title, not friend of Daniel Jones, not defender of Daniel Jones. We all knew that Daniel Jones is the best quarterback on the roster, and that's no one's fault besides the guys who ended up deciding to give him that contract, which we've talked about it a bunch. I think was the right move at the time, but you know, whatever. That's another conversation for another day. I'm sure we'll have it plenty. We've already had it 20 times. Either way, Shaun, I just think going forward, if you want to continue to put your best foot forward. If you want to put your best foot forward, it all comes from your players. Your coach made a business decision. He made a decision to try to, one, save his job, and two, placate the owner in terms of putting butts in seats, because Tommy DeVito was your option there.
Yeah.
Your best players don't need everything to be all fine and dandy, all sunshine and rainbows. When it comes to management, for them to go out there and actually compete, you don't need all of that. You know, like, it's not mutually exclusive. You don't need a competent organization. Just, you know what? Go out there and actually play hard. And Shaun, I could be really frustrated right now. And at the same time, thank God they lost this game. Thank God they lost this game. Amazing. Great. Awesome.
That's the other part, if we want to get to that now. Because, look, there's only so much belly aching you could do about effort and everything on a podcast after this game. We all know the team sucked. We all know the effort sucked. And we have no idea what's to come the rest of the year. I will say, as I sit here today, I've totally swung the other way. Like, I think there's a good chance Brian Daboll's not the head coach of the New York Giants next year. And that makes me sad. That makes me angry. For a variety of reasons that we could continue to break down podcast after podcast. I don't care if you want to yell and scream at me like a lunatic. I think there's a good head coach in Brian Daboll. I don't think he was the coach of the year on accident. I think in hindsight, winning 9 games really should have been 10. They were 9-7-1. With Daniel Jones as quarterback is proof of that. I think winning the games he had with DeVito last year is proof of that. That, by the way, doesn't mean he's a perfect head coach. It doesn't mean he's a flawless head coach. But when guys start to quit because you go through too much bad football, like what happened today, it's hard to bring back a coach. So if and when Brian Daboll is let go at the end of the year, if this is the kind of crap, like if this is not a one-off, and why would you expect this to be a one-off, and this team continues to spiral this way, and it's a total locker room implosion, like what happened with Ben McAdoo, I think that Brian Daboll will fix himself up somewhere offensively and get another chance to be a head coach, because when you're coach of the year, it's hard not to get hired as a head coach again. And I believe that with the right quarterback and right situation, he will be a good head coach, and we'll probably look back and go, damn, where was this Brian Daboll with the Giants? Well, it wasn't there because he didn't have a quarterback. Yeah. The root of the problem still with the New York Giants is you cannot compete in the NFL without quarterback play. The Giants don't have any. That doesn't mean that they weren't soft as hell on defense, but You also have a defense that I think is quitting as a result of not expecting the offense to do anything. It is like a giant snow globe cat chasing the tail. So that part of it makes me sad. The good part of it, as you said, you look around the NFL right now as it stands. At the time we're taping this podcast, the Giants have the 2nd overall pick. The team picking first right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, conceivably have signed Trevor Lawrence long-term, and maybe that's a team just taking Travis Hunter. Maybe they trade out and somebody jumps him. I don't know if Cam Ward or Shador Sanders or Jalen Milroe or Quinn Ewers or Garrett Nussmeier or Jackson Dart, who, by the way, ironically, this weekend was crying in the arms of Joe Judge after a horrible loss. I don't know that any of them are going to be very good quarterbacks in the NFL. And I could give you my predictions on them if I leaned right now, and you'll hear me probably plenty in the pod. It's Cam Ward, but it's hold my nose because I see the flaws in him too. But all I know is if you're going to go through years like this, and they're going to suck, and so many years of the past have sucked, and I'm begging you Giant fans to see this. I sat there today and said, I hope Tommy has a good game. But if you're going to go through that, you might as well go through it all the way. Yeah. You might as well get the first pick in the draft. Second pick, all right, you deal with. The last time they had the second pick in the draft, they wasted it on a running back, okay? And that's, again, why I'm so frustrated by Saquon Barkley every time he brings it up, because I sat through garbage only to take a running back second overall. If you're going to do that, it better be worth it that the franchise actually changes based on player. And if it does, unfortunately for Brian Daboll, if it's with another coach or another regime, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But as a fan, I can only tell you, today sucked horribly. I have 6 more of these. Yeah. I can bite my lip, and I could bite it all down. I could bite. If it means, Shaun, you're getting the first pick in the draft, and guess what? You're going to get a quarterback that is going to compete at a high level in the NFL for the next 10 years because
you don't know.
You don't know. And that's kind of where the Giants need to be. So how bad does it get in the locker room going forward? Malik Neighbors, man, I hope he has his head on straight. Obviously, Tyrone Tracy with a couple fumbles. There are building block players. I thought Newman had a good game today. My worry is they fire the general manager and the coach, and John Mara, who went outside the box for this and didn't go the normal, goes back inside the box, and it's Belichick, and he's bringing in Josh McDaniels, and we're going down that garbage route. Yep. That will be ugly. So be careful what you wish for, Giant fans, if you're running this regime out. And remember who your owner is, and you remember how much it took your owner to go outside the box finally and do a hire like this. If he goes back inside that what's comfortable box, you may not like what comes out the other end. But threading that needle between keeping the coach and getting the quarterback you want was always going to be difficult. And today it felt more difficult than ever. It really did.
I know both of us are on the same page here because we've talked about it a bunch. The idea of us not wanting the Giants not rooting against the Giants, but if they lost, okay, great. They're in a better position. But as you said, it's just impossible to lose enough and then to keep the head coach who we're both fans of. I think Brian Daboll, there's a really good head coach in Brian Daboll.
Yeah. And again, I understand when people have problems with him. I'll tell you right now. Today, when the Giants go for it on 4th down, trying to keep up momentum, that's a crap play call.
Yeah,
I understand they're lined up in the middle, but like you have Tracy, I would have no problem if you ran up the gut and got stuffed or tried to
also
do
your own like 38 on your own 30.
I don't even mind where you are. You're 2-8. You're trying to spark the. I don't even mind that.
But a better play call than that. A better play call than that. Is
you
what I'm saying.
You can't be running an end around to a wide receiver around there with 1 yard to go. That's a terrible. So that's part of it, right? There are flaws in Brian Daboll's coaching, no doubt. He is not a perfect product. But I know that when you hire Brian Daboll to be the head coach, you're hiring him based on what you think he could do with a young quarterback. And the idea he will spend 3 years never getting a chance to do that and winning coach of the year and then being out feels crazy to me. It does. Because guess what? When they fire him and you look where the Giants are drafting and they're taking a quarterback, you know what I'm going to be thinking to myself? Man, Brian Daboll would be the perfect guy to have with a quarterback like this.
Yeah, and this is why you hired him. It's why you hired him. Just imagine being in Brian Daboll's shoes. Imagine coming to the Giants. You're in New York. You have to deal with all the BS, the fans, the media, the ownership throws at you. You're stuck with Daniel Jones as your quarterback for those 3 years. Then you finally have an opportunity to draft and develop your own guy, and then that's when you're canned. That's when the fans and the ownership decide it's too much.
I
would lose my mind too if I were him.
And if you hire a new regime and you fire these guys, and they're picking 1st or 2nd overall, they're going to feel less pressure to stake their claim on a quarterback right away. They maybe wait a year. Then, what the hell are we doing? Are we watching a year of Sam Darnold next year? And we don't even have the excitement of a new rookie quarterback because they decided to maybe trade the pick for a boatload of picks or something. Maybe that's great long term. I don't know, man. I'm so freaking ready to draft a quarterback at the top of the draft. And you bring in a new GM, then it's going to be another cleansing of, well, this guy's going to go, that's good. I mean, Tyler Nubin's not their guy. Drew Phillips isn't their guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that. But
I don't think there could be anything over the course of these last, 6 games that could change my mind that these guys deserve to come back. Like, whatever happens now is a direct result of them not having a quarterback and nothing else. You can place a lot of the blame on the ownership and on management for how they handle the whole Daniel Jones situation, but it's not their fault that the Daniel Jones situation.
And I'm sure ownership kept like the little birdies on their ear, and it cost them with the Jones thing. Now, look, they still could have said this was more of an open competition this year. They still could have signed Russell Wilson, done something like that, and they didn't. They very clearly made it. Who knows if it was one of those, hey, we let Saquon walk, we have to keep John happy. I don't know what it was. Or maybe they really did believe that, for a year he could figure it out. You can't tell me that if you were looking to trade up for a quarterback, though. That part didn't add up. Either way, it's incredibly frustrating, and it's a quick turnaround. And, boy, we were sitting here Friday, and I think, Bryce, you and I both thought, and I think a lot of the Giant fan base thought, I don't know what's going to happen with the Buck game. I could see them losing, playing hard, losing. That's where we ended up on our predictions. Yeah. I didn't see a blowout coming. Maybe I should have. And I think we also both sat and said, but, man, Thanksgiving with the Cowboys, that's going to be a big spot to veto Thanksgiving. And now I sit here and go, the Cowboys just beat Washington. The Giants look like they're quitting on a national. Like, this is where it could get real ugly for Daboll. Yeah, if this team loses to a bad Cowboy team badly and gets embarrassed badly, and the entire country is mocking him, I mean, Brian Daboll could get fired in season. Like, that's how bad it could get.
Yeah.
Imagine asking these guys with pride in front of the whole country on Thanksgiving to answer questions after the game. What's that going to look like? So, who knows what direction this goes in? I don't feel comfortable about any of this after losing 30-7 to the Buccaneers, but that's where we're at. So at Bryce Gelman is where you can get him on Twitter. At Shaun Morash is where you can get me on Twitter. Download, subscribe to the podcast everywhere podcasts are available. At some point when you wake up on Wednesday morning, the plan is for you to have a preview pod out ahead of Thanksgiving. When me and Bryce tape that, some point Tuesday, we'll do that. We'll try to get as much info injury-wise, post-game quote-wise as we have so we can give you the best damn preview pod you will listen to. Then on top of that, in terms of reaction to the pod, I am going to be on WFAN solo in the Sal BT into Evan and Tiki, my normal show spot. I'm going to be on for 4.5 hours on Black Friday doing complete giant wall-to-wall calls, reaction to the Cowboy game, 10 to 2:30. At some point Friday, me and Bryce are going to gather after the holiday and we eat our turkey and our pie and all this stuff. And we're going to tape our reaction pod and kind of look ahead to the week that was. So next weekend, you'll have, again, another pod out, One Giant Step. So you're going to want to download, subscribe everywhere podcasts are available. The Giants suck. The pod doesn't. So please continue to follow us at Bryce Gelman and at Shaun Morash. Oh, one more thing, Bryce, I got to leave you with. Going after Lugauer on Twitter. How am I supposed to do that? That's like having, your wife and your sister-in-law fight. I mean, wow. What am I supposed to do with that?
Well, tell your wife to be rational in that situation then. If your wife is being irrational.
Man, what if you were my wife? What if you were my wife? You didn't even know where I was going with that.
It could have been either way. Could be either way.
Geez. He's not happy. I got a text from him. You've put me in an awkward spot now, you two.
He tell him to come on the podcast, please. I'd love to have this conversation about how wrong he was.
I believe his quote was, "Who's this bitch-ass little kid coming after me?" So we'll see.
That's nice. We'll see. That's one of the nicest things I've gotten all week. So
we'll see. Either way, I got to deal with the nonsense with this. All right. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and subscribing to One Giant Step. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. If you don't hear from us on the preview pod, but please, we hope you do hear from us on the preview pod. And take care, everyone. Have a good night.